welcome to the June edition of HR Hot Topics. I'm your host, Jody Schaefer, and as always, we aim to make this most informative 5-ish minutes of your month. This month, we're going to talk about total compensation statements, and here's why you need to pay attention to this. I know almost all of you are feeling the pinch of a very tight labor market. The number of job openings in 2021 skyrocketed, and now that we're halfway into 2022, they've stabilized, but they're almost twice as many as they were pre-pandemic. Let me say that again, almost twice as many job openings nationwide right now as we had pre-pandemic, okay? And then you couple that with the fact that April marked the 11th consecutive month where voluntary quits were over 4 million nationwide. So a lot of shuffling going on, right? The labor market's tight, a lot of competition. And this has forced many of you to take a look at your compensation and make adjustments. And not just for the new positions that you have open, but anytime you adjust starting pay for an incoming job applicant, it could potentially create compensation compression for your existing staff. So then you've got to look at what everybody else is currently paid and potentially make adjustments there. And I think for many of the clients, at least the ones I've been speaking to, they've done that. They understand that the market is sort of driving this need to increase compensation across the board. But there's a certain point where it can't go up anymore. I mean, you have to be able to balance the books at the end of the month. So I want to talk about this idea of a total compensation statement because you pay more to an employee than just their direct wages. Right? If you're offering insurance and you're picking up a portion of that, there's a cost associated with it. If you're paying for paid time off, right? If that's a benefit that you give to staff, there's a dollar amount associated with that. If you're offering a uniform allowance, if you're paying for them to do continuing education, right? If you're paying for any sort of a car allowance. I mean, the list sort of goes on and on and on. There are a lot of things that employers give to employees that would be considered benefits, but the cost associated with providing those benefits is not clearly defined anywhere. An employee's pay stub shows direct compensation and maybe what the employer pays in terms of, unemployment insurance or the match for Social Security, but that's kind of where it stops. So in a job market where your current staff are being lured away potentially, right, with other opportunities, or you're trying to work really hard to bring new staff in, I think it's time that employees had the full financial picture of what they get when they work for you, of the investment that you're making in them. And that's really what a total compensation statement is. It's listing out the direct costs that you pay to the employee, so their wages, the things that they know, and then it's all the financial components of the other benefits that you're providing, listed out line by line by line, and then totaled up at the bottom so an employee sees their total compensation, not just their direct wages. Because an informed employee needs to have that in order to make good financial decisions. And whether or not to leave your place of business to go work somewhere else or join your place of business from somewhere else, those financial considerations are a big part of it. It's not the whole story, but it's a big part of the story, and it's one that we're only telling half of. Okay? And if you're not doing this already, don't beat yourself up. Only 38% of employers nationwide, according to a pay scale study in 2020, were doing this. So only 38%, right? So there's a lot of room for improvement here. But in this job market where everything you do matters, we can't afford to keep missing the boat on this, okay? So I have included in the links below, don't forget, I've always got good links, right? So make sure you look at the links below. I'm including an Excel spreadsheet and the template is already created for you. All you have to do is put in the actual dollar amounts that correspond with both direct pay and then some of the other benefit lines that I've listed out. So you can customize the listing of those benefits so that it matches what you're currently offering, but it's all set up for you and it will automatically compile the dollar amount at the bottom. And then there's also a graphing function that also, kind of ties into this. So a really nice visual for staff, makes it fairly straightforward. So spend a little time, do the math. Okay, you're already paying the bill. You might as well get credit for it. So do the math, lay it all out. That becomes your total compensation statement. And you're going to have one for every single employee because they're going to be unique, right, to each employee's circumstances. Then don't miss the opportunity for how you share that information. Don't just print it and hand it out with no context, okay? You can either talk to your staff as a group and lay the groundwork. Here's what here's what this is. Here's how to read it. Here's why I'm giving it to you. You could do that verbally. You could do that in writing. Or depending on the size of your staff, this is a perfect opportunity to have some one-on-one meetings with your team. So a few months ago, I have a video on the power of stay interviews, and that talks about some questions you can ask one-on-one with staff to really assess their engagement level. You could combine some of those questions with the handing out of this total compensation statement. So 10 minutes, not huge amounts of time, again, depending on the size of your team, but you could do one-on-one 10-minute meetings with each staff member, ask a couple of questions, what's going well, what are you thinking right now, what are some of the roadblocks or challenges you're having, and then share with them the value, right, of the investment you're making in them as an employee, and you do that through that total compensation statement. I would do that now because your staff are being actively recruited away, whether they're looking or not, because again, the labor market is just so tight. So I would do it now for all of your staff. But then I would build this into some sort of a regular communication cadence. You can time it with your performance evaluations. You could do it every 6 months, whatever the cadence might be that works best for you. But this is a real missed opportunity, and I would make sure that if you're going to put the time in, to sort of lay this out, because again, you're spending the money anyways, they might as well know about it, then let's just build that in on a regular basis going forward too. So I'm going to put some other articles down below too to help you understand the exact kinds of things that should be included in one of these total compensation, or I've heard them referred to as total rewards statements, either one, right? So take a look at the links, but of course, if you have any questions, you can always reach me directly at jodyschaefer@workwithrm.com.